Welcome to ISRA League's Grand Touring Championship, brought to you by the Z1 SimWheel LCD display and LCD display software. You can get this hardware or just the software at z1simwheel.com and add all of these excellent dashes to your sim rig. Check it out again at z1simwheel.com. Well, this is race 7 in the GTC Season 8. It's a 2-hour enduro at Watkins Glen. My name's Daniel Quaroni, and I'm here tonight with Anthony Muniz.
Great to be back with you guys.
And Brian Carey.
Got myself a comfy chair and ready to roll.
Alright, well, once again, for our frequent viewers, the bug in iRacing's display... Oh, I'll talk about that in a second. Let's go through the points. We got Mike Kelly leading by a slim margin over Russell Cow in the Daytona prototypes. Timothy Stoll is still hanging on to third place there, but starting to slip behind. Then, let's see, Carlos is reasonably safe in 4th, but 5th, 6th, 7th, and even 8th and 9th, they're pretty well up for grabs. Over in Cadillacs, Colin McLean is leading decently over James Cullen and Todd Carver, who are very close in 2nd and 3rd. And then, once again, we got 4th through 6th as a pretty contentious battle, and then 7th through 10th, once again, all up for grabs. So lots of positions could shuffle around in this race. So as I was saying, for our frequent viewers, the bug that doesn't let the skins display is still in iRacing, so we're going to go with the sort of the iRacing skins for this race once again. So bear with us if we have any trouble spotting, because we're still not quite used to them. And Brian, take us through the map.
Alright, well, we got the Watkins Glen International circuit here. We've got a few corners that's probably the 90 at the beginning of the lap here is probably one of the most important for passing. You need to get a good run through there, through the S's out to the back straight. We're using the boot configuration, so you can see there at the bottom turns 6, 7, 8, and 9. Toe, the boot, and the heel, all important. Turn 9 there, coming out of the heel on back onto the regular, what we call the NASCAR track. Very, very difficult there. There's a the track kind of lifts up around the apex there, and it's really, really easy to lose the car there. So watch out for a lot of incidents at turn 9.
And looking at qualifying in Daytona prototypes, we have Russell Cow taking pole with a 139.211, and then Timothy Stoll will be next to him. And on the second row, Brian Carey and John Middleton. Third row is Mike Kelly, Chuck Chambliss. We're all still in the 139s there. Finally breaking to the 140s for Jeremy Burris and Brent Briles. Then Gilles Moret on the 5th row.
It's Joe Jr. with the pole over James Cullen in the Cadillacs this race. Very interesting, and close times there as well. Eduardo Benica and Todd Carver will be on the 2nd row, with Daniel Gralti and Lauren Bateman taking up the 3rd, Anthony Muniz with Ryan Huff on the 4th, and John Kelly with Gregory Schaefer on the 5th row.
And once again, very close qualifying times. There we've got a 2.5 basically from 1st to 10th.
Yeah, in the beginning of both classes here, you can basically throw a blanket over them. It's very, very close, so really nothing to kind of separate anyone. Actually, in the Daytona prototypes, normally Russell Cow you'd see off to a huge lead in qualifying, as well as James Cullen a lot of the times in the Cadillacs, who's pulling out to already in qualifying. Pretty big gap, so the fact that those top 5s in both classes are covered by a few tenths should make the beginning of this 2-hour enduro very, very interesting.
Yeah, and when we took a look at the track map, just by looking at it, seems like it's a fairly simple and straightforward circuit. Most everyone can find their way around here fairly easily, but there are a few places, in particular the boot section of the circuit, where there's a lot of time to be gained and a lot of time to be lost. So it'll be interesting to see how well cars are able to negotiate and gain and lose time, especially with the Daytona prototypes that will be going through the Cadillacs. A lot of interesting racing that we should see here unfold over the 2 hours.
Speaking of interesting, was that just Tim Stoll in the front of the pace car there?
Yeah, he was pulling a little bit of a Michael Schumacher there to hopefully getting that car going a little bit faster, I guess, or he was busy having a beverage, I'm not quite sure, but race hasn't started yet. He's back into position, and we should be good to go for a start.
The Cadillacs are leaving quite a big gap between themselves and the back of the Daytona prototypes, which is quite interesting because the straight line speed is obviously much greater, and the braking performance for the DP is also much greater than the Cadillac. So it'll be interesting to see where the Cadillacs actually start on the grid when the green flag flies.
I may be anticipating a turn 1 wreck. It's always on the first lap, a big contentious area. People go through wide, and stuff can happen.
Yeah, exactly. There's going to be a big concertina effect going into the first corner as well as the bus stop chicane, so I got to be aware of that as the pace car is about to roll off and we're about to go green.
And Russell Cow taking off, wow, quite decisively. And it looks like, in fact, Brian Carey might even be able to get past Tim Stahl before the first turn. Not quite, nope.
It's Russell Cow with a very early jump there, and he has a commanding lead as they head into the S's section. Tim Stoll just behind with Brian Carey settling into third, and all of the other Daytona prototypes trying to get into a single file line as they head through the tight S's section onto the back straight.
Yeah, going into the bus stop here, as you're going to see Russell Cow entering it right now, it's very, very high speed, and it's extremely single line, so ideally you want to get all that argy-bargy and side-by-side stuff done before you get to the bus stop, because if you go too wide through the bus stop, typically you're not going to be coming too out, so one of them will probably be off the track, so very, very careful there. It looks like everyone's got through.
It looks like the Cadillacs are also doing very well as they head into the carousel. Everyone gets into the bus stop and out very nicely. We're watching Eduardo Benica right now battling with the number 40 of Todd Carver. And it looks like everyone's... just looking by the gaps, doesn't look like anyone's had any incidents, so that is good to see.
There we got Gary Miller there in the 14 and try to pick that out, and he's chasing down Anthony Muniz with Jerry Nitter right behind him. We don't see who's up ahead there. Like I say, we're just trying to get some of these paint schemes nailed down because they're different than what we're used to. Back up to the Daytona prototypes and a group of cars that looks like John Rizzutos and Gilles Moret.
Yeah, fortunately, a couple of people have kept their schemes fairly similar. So Gilles usually running a green-white scheme, so that's what he's got. Let's see, Brian Carey, even though it's different than from as usual, it's fairly similar. Now on board with Gilles.
That's one of those things is when you load up a paint scheme in iRacing, depending on when you load it up with Dan's replays here, it looks like Todd's going to take a run here for a position, but you load up a paint scheme, you can kind of change it before Dan records each race, so make sure everything's updated and whatnot. However, the iRacing paint schemes here, if you don't change them or if you change them periodically, it'll be exactly what you had picked for that race, so that's why you're going to see some paint schemes that may be a lot different than what they'd attended when they'd done their own paint schemes.
And we have some
Carver.
That was,
I was gonna say we have some
very, very wobbly.
Yeah, some very early intense racing from the Cadillacs here as they head through the S's going too wide. I don't see that often, especially in the heavy GT cars, but they were able to get through, and a couple guys made up positions because of that.
Yeah, it's one of those things here where there's a couple cars off that looks like could be Karl Mumbauer, I'm not sure. It was an orange and black car, and that could be Chuck Chambliss, perhaps. I'm not quite sure there. Hopefully we'll get to see something of that. But at any rate, we got the Cadillacs back here, and not exactly sure what I was about to say, but we'll just enjoy the battle as we see it.
Yeah, we've got a nice close group here of Daniel Gralty leading in that right car. Oh, and Lauren Bateman spinning. Right, I couldn't tell. Lauren Bateman kind of came out. You either lost it on the grass if you did, because that was got some oversteer very late out of that corner.
But you can see right there the track is on the exit of that corner there, kind of it gives you a little bit of room for the exit, but if you run it a little bit too hard and you still loaded that rear tire, you clip the grass, could very easily pitch the car into the wall just like we saw there. So could have been got contact, but more than likely he just got his wheel on the grass and spun it around.
So Lauren Bateman losing quite a few positions early in the opening stages of this race. He'll have a long fight ahead of the next 2 hours. And we've got some more intense GT battles going on right here. A lot of guys staying grouped together. That's good. We don't... in endurance race, sometimes you see guys take it easy in the opening half of the race. But it looks like quite a few intense battles. You can see a damaged Daytona prototype. Again, because of the different paint schemes, we can't or I can't at least identify exactly who that is, but that was an incident that happened over in the bus stop a previous lap.
Well, Jeremy Burris was in the pit lane there, so he might have been part of that first that incident we just saw. Anthony Muniz leading a train of cars here, including Greg Schaefer and Gary Miller. Very, very tight together. And it's one of those tracks here, because of the long straightaway coming out of turn 1. It's not really a straightaway with the S's, obviously, but you can tend to draft up on each other and hold on to a group. So looks like Muniz and actually there's a driver up ahead of Muniz right there, but what you want to do is in the early laps try to break away from that draft and hopefully gain some positions. But until that happens, you're kind of resigned to pack racing.
Yeah, the S's for the Cadillac was quite interesting. It was just about flat, especially if you were on fresh tires. You could get through those pretty easily, but the longer that you went into a stint, the harder it was to get through without getting some oversteer, especially through the second half of the S's. So that'll be interesting to see. I know I got a couple good runs on guys because they got just a touch of oversteer, but it compromised the overall top speed they had going down the back straight into the bus stop. So that'll be interesting to watch.
Yeah, those of you fellow sim racers out there who used to frequent racing the NASCAR racing simulators, like the NASCAR Racing 2003 in particular, which was in some ways a predecessor to iRacing. A lot of the road racing guys would spend endless hours here at Watkins Glen racing those Cup cars there. So very, very used to that sort of tire wear problem. Is Dan Coroni there trying to make a move on John Rizzuto's. Gilles Moret in close pursuit with another couple cars behind them waiting to pounce on any mistake.
Jump on board with Gary Miller, who is chasing Gregory Schaefer. He's going to get a look on the inside coming out of turn 1. Schaefer went very wide. They're going to be side by side into the S's. I believe Schaefer's going to have to. Yep, and he ends up giving away the position. So definitely not smart going side by side. So he was. It was a good move by him to give up that position. There's still a long time left to go racing.
And we're barely 5 minutes into this thing.
He's looking on the outside, but obviously, well, he's ahead, entering the bus stop, and he does it. He pulls it off. Gets his spot back.
Well, that's Jerry Knitter right there. Greg Schaefer losing another position.
Jerry Knitter, oh, you're absolutely right. Wow, so Schaefer really off his game all of a sudden. Oh, and speaking of off their game.
Looks like Joe Jr. there in the, it's Joe Polsitter is off the track. I know Joe didn't get a lot of practice in, set a very, very quick time, but it looks like that lack of practice has caused him a mistake in the race, and that car is crabbing very, very badly. He'll try to get that back to the pits, but more than likely, looking at the damage there'll be nothing he can do about that. It looks like that'll probably be a retirement for Joe.
Jump on board with Tim McLeish, currently running in P11 in his class, and he's got Gilles Moret just in front of him. Also, a bit further up the road is Dan Coroni, who is chasing down John Rizzuto. Those guys are also very close in a small group. And now we go to a bit farther up the field. It's Brian Carey up in third place, and he's trying to defend against Mike Kelly. And Kelly's got a run. Well, actually, it looked like Brian let him by there coming out of, turn 6. Remember why he did that, Brian?
No, I do not know. I may have gone off the track at some point. I think I might have cut the bus stop.
Okay, yeah, so that would explain why you gave that time up right there. That allows Mike Kelly to easily make a move up into third place. Tim McLeish getting a nice run coming off of turn 7. Let's see if he'll have the position if Gilles... Oh, well, I guess we'll have to jump away.
He did get
looks like he's held it.
The question is whether he was able to make it stick out there on the inside. I think he probably did.
I would say about remembering what happened there, I'll be honest with you, I don't remember running the bus stop here. So, because the other configuration is you forgo the bus stop and go straight down to the outer loop, and until I saw the pace lap, I wasn't 100% sure that we were in the bus stop here. So, I will tell you something about my recollection of various events in this race.
And unfortunately, we are recording this broadcast quite a ways after this race actually happened. It's probably been at least 4 weeks or so. So our personal memories might be a little bit vague, and we might not be able to provide as much personal details as we normally do.
Yeah, especially considering the color of the cars is very much different than what we remember when we were racing. So we never saw these. Basically, it's almost like a new race, if you will. We have our two Canadian counterparts here, Tim McLeish in the red and white Daytona prototype, Gilles Moret in the white and green.
Jump on board with Todd Carver as they head down the front straight down towards turn 1. He's chasing down Daniel Gralti up there. This is a battle for third place right now.
Yeah, Todd is all over him like a bad suit right now, just right on the bumper of Dan Gralti here. I don't think he got a good enough run out of turn 1 to make much of an impression on him going into the bus stop, but still very, very close. And speaking of close...
Yeah, we've got a pretty large train of Cadillacs right here. 4, I guess 5 if you count myself. It's just a bit in front of them. And we've got some close racing. This is a battle between John Kelly and Gary Miller, and Miller being the one chasing John Kelly for the 7th spot in the Cadillac class.
So there, Todd will get the car rotated a little bit, and actually starting the corner down there a little bit. If you roll the car into the bus stop, or excuse me, the outer loop just a little bit slower, let the tires camber over and grip, and then roll through the corner there, you'll be able to get a better run and not overcook your tires. And it looks like Todd's able to do that over Dan. Dan's able to hold the position, but watch that as a lapse of grass, because Dan's going to find it harder and harder to keep that car down on the apex, and Todd should be able to take advantage of that, maybe sooner rather than later.
Yeah, Todd Carver definitely seems to be on a charge here early in the race. He's going to take a peek on the inside there. Obviously not going to be able to get it done. You really have to be alongside someone already to make one of those moves work. And then even then, if you're able to do it, it can be kind of difficult, because you do have to make sure you complete the pass before you get into turn 9, because then you give the advantage back to the other car.
All right, now back to the tail end of that battle. Ooh, Gary Miller.
Close.
Whoa, we missed his break. That was turn 9 that I talked about at the opening of the show here, and as he come back onto their track, he's lost a couple places. Luckily, he didn't turn the car around, but it would have been very easy to spin the car coming offline there. There's a very, very narrow window there when you're going through that corner because of the way the asphalt changes. The asphalt, sorry. I'll break myself out eventually after all these years. The asphalt there, when it changes, you're going to, basically what happens is you unsettle the car, so you could either get significant oversteer or you get significant understeer. And really until you get there, sometimes you don't know which is going to happen, which makes it very, very difficult to predict what the car is going to do.
Let's see, we're still watching the battle between Gralti and Carver as they head down into the bus stop. Carver still right on the back bumper of Daniel Gralti, but Gralti doing a pretty good job defending his 3rd place position. Although, as I say that, Todd Carver is going to try and get on the inside as they head around the carousel. It doesn't look like he'll be able to make it stick as they head down towards the boot section.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about before, how Todd's able to come out of there a little bit tighter, hold the inside, let the tires grip, and then get through there. Where it looks like Dan's really fighting the car on the way, all the way through the exit, through the bus stop chicane, all the way through the outer loop there. I am enjoying watching these Cadillacs run around here because it's a very, very flowing track. I mean, aside from the bus stop chicane, which obviously is a chicane, a lot of really, the corners really flow into another. They're cambered positively, which means there's a little bit of positive bank, much like you'd find on an oval. Not nearly as much banking on an oval, but the cars are really sliding around, staying under control, and these drivers are really kind of letting them fly right now. As Greg Schaefer, I'm sorry, goes underneath Jerry Knitter, and Jerry is going to have the inside of the next corner. We'll see. This is turn 9 that I talked about. See if he's able to undercut him. Gregory. Gary Miller is behind Gregory Schaefer in the 14 there. So.
Yeah, I actually thought that Miller might be able to go and make a move because of on Jerry Knitter, because he was a little bit, or Gregory Schaefer rather, so I'm doing it just like you, because he went wide through turn 9, but he's able to get the power down and defend that position, or maintain his position rather. But these guys are really going at it here in the first 15 minutes.
Yeah, it's hard to believe we're not even 15 minutes into this 2-hour race yet. We've seen so much action. I really do love Watkins Glen for this endurance racing because it provides a ton of action no matter what cars we run here.
Let's see if, while we ride on board, let's see how much oversteer Miller is dealing with as they head through. Still early in their opening stint, so not really having to deal with very much. The tires are still relatively fresh, and if he's been able to be nice and smooth on them, they should be in good operating temperature. Although it looks like as we go to the Daytona prototypes, Tim McLeish gets a little bit of oversteer through the middle portion of turn 1, gets a little bit, or loses time. He'll lose top speed as they head through the S's. Looks like Jules Morat might have enough speed to challenge as they head down the back straight.
He doesn't quite have enough speed, I don't think, to... you really got to make this... You got to be right alongside someone going into this bus stop to have a chance. You're not braking very much. There is braking there, but if you're not alongside and you try to make a pass, you will crash.
And Russell Cow now making his way through traffic, lapping the Cadillacs for the first time here, just at about the 15-minute mark. And you can see Mike Kelly not too far behind, but there are some battles for position. Let's see if he can get through there.
Yeah, basically Russell, Timothy Stoll, and Mike Kelly are all within about a second of each other. Or excuse me, 2 seconds of each other, I should say.
And then here's the battle we were just watching out a couple of shots ago with Tim McLeish and Jules Moret, and they're also just about up to that same GT traffic that the leaders are working themselves through right now. So really not a whole lot separating. As you can see, Tim McLeish gets held up by that GT car. Jules Moret able to pull right onto the back of his Daytona prototype, but not luckily able to avoid contact. We'll jump back to the battle for third place in Cadillac. Todd Carver is still trying to find a way around Daniel Gralty. Gralty's still doing a good job of holding off the quick pace of Todd Carver.
Yeah, they're pretty early into this race here, but Todd is losing touch with Eduardo and James up in front, and considering his qualifying pace, he's going to want to get there as soon as possible. Oh, there's, like I say, sticking the nose in there. That was a late move by Todd, and luckily Dan was heads up and didn't turn in, but and hopefully Todd's all right there, but that's what happens. I'm not sure he necessarily intended to make the pass there. When you come in there, though, sometimes the car ahead of you breaks a little sooner. You kind of have to put the car somewhere, right? So Todd looks like he lived another day.
Yeah, that was great heads-up driving by Gralty there through that corner, because before they hit their braking zone, Carver wasn't. Ooh, and that was I believe that's Brent Briles there getting sideways out of the bus stop. Luckily, everyone able to avoid. But back to that move that Todd Carver tried, or that happened at least. Maybe it wasn't intentional. Carver wasn't alongside Daniel Gralty at all when they hit the braking zone, so that all happened under braking, and that was good heads-up driving, like Brian mentioned, for Daniel Gralty to see that he was going to come alongside, and he took a wider apex to allow the room for both cars to go through that first corner, and both of those drivers avoided contact and are going to continue racing on.
Yeah, we're starting to get to that point of the race there. We're not even 20 minutes in, but we've done quite a number of laps here. The racing has been pretty intense up to this point, so you're going to start to see, as you can see, the Daytona prototypes lapping the slower cars. You're going to start to see different things happening, a little bit more chances being taken, a little more mistakes being made, and looks like Brent got caught out a little bit there, and I'm sure he won't be the last one.
This is a pretty good battle we've got going on right here. It's the top 3 guys overall in the race. Russell Cow leading right now, but Tim Stoll is just behind him now. He's going to try and get alongside as they're going to get around the... oh, there's contact there between the Cadillac
and Dan Gralty.
Dan Gralty. Wow, so that is a top-running car in Cadillacs who gets some severe damage. I'm sure he's going to have some sort of suspension damage because of that.
Yeah, I think Russell moved over a little bit on Timothy, not expecting a third car to be on the inside there, and ended up Dan Gralty was the odd man out of that racing situation. Unfortunate, but it didn't look like anything malicious. It just seemed that that was just a part of the track that they all seemed to come together.
Mike
These are
Kelly.
teammates right here.
It is, yeah. They a little bit harder to distinguish the teammates because they're painted totally differently than that we're used to seeing them. But yeah, it's Mike Kelly and Timothy Stoll, both Turn 1 Heroes drivers, and they're trying to chase down Russell Cow. And they're both very, very close, even with that little bit of contact between Tim Stoll and Daniel Gralty. They're all within about 1.2 seconds of each other. Coming up on Dan Gralty's damaged car right here. Let's see if how off pace he is, if he is at all. Yeah, he's a little bit off pace, allowing Ryan Huff to get by there on the inside as they head into turn 9. So he's probably trying to limp his car back to the pits and see how much damage can be repaired, or if any can be repaired.
It seems to be going okay, but it's obviously not an ideal situation, as he is well behind the pace that he's accustomed to. So.
And Dan Coroni might be able to make a move right here. He was battling with John Rossetto's actually, excuse me, and Rossetto's decided to follow Gralty on the inside line, expecting Gralty to track out normally and get on the so he could make the pass on the inside. Unfortunately, Galti was heading into the pits, and let's see, that puts Daniel Coroni ahead of
Brent in the wall, unfortunately. I just saw that.
Brent having another drama coming out of turn 1. That looks probably some damage collected on that one. Looks like he hit the inside Armco barrier.
And this is not currently John Rosettos in 8th position. This is Lauren Bateman, I would guess, because that seems to be who it defaults to. Yep, Lauren Bateman.
Yep.
Because again, as those who followed us there, John Rosettos in the 01. Unfortunately, if we're looking for him, the system and everything just can't seem to match up together, and it defaults to the next car that they can, which is Lauren Bateman, the number 1. So anytime we're looking for John Rosettos, you're probably going to be on board with Lauren Bateman.
And unfortunately for Bateman, he had that early incident coming out of turn 7, and so he's not really around anyone right now. He's playing the catch-up game, but we've got a good battle here between Jerry Knitter and Gary Miller, and this is for 7th place in the Cadillac class. And looks like Gary Miller's got some pace, and he's looking to see if he can't find a way around Jerry Knitter. Didn't really have enough speed going down into turn 8 there, but he definitely seems to be pretty quick.
And there's John/Lauren Bateman. Just kind of plugging around there. Like I say, he's outside the top 12 right now. Trying to figure out about where he is. You can see it probably up in the top of the screen there where his positioning is, but unfortunately John Rosettos is about 0.3 of a second underneath Dan Coroni right now, so we're missing a pretty good battle as we turn to the battle for the lead. Timothy Stahl and Russell Cow.
And this is still the top 3 cars in the Daytona prototype class, and they're within about a second of each other. You can see them all right there in the same shot. Tim Stolz does seem to have quite a bit of pace, and he is right under the rear wing of Russell Cowell as they head into the boot section.
Yeah, it's one place going around the outside there of the outer loop is actually not that bad a positioning for Daytona prototypes. It's not so much faster. You lose a little bit on the entry because you can't come in quite as aggressively, but if you're coming around a slower car and you roll your car into the corner just right, you can actually get a pretty good run going around the outside of someone, and Timothy took advantage of that. Almost made a move on Russell going into the next corner, but Russell was able to hold him off.
And we'll take a look at an equally close battle here between Tim McLeish and Gilles Murat. This is for farther down the field. This is a battle for...
Oh, no!
Wow. Both of those cars taking heavy damage.
Oh, I missed it a little bit, but one of the cars there, it looks like that was Tim, got loose coming off the corner. Was it Jill?
Yeah. Who was ahead right there? I've forgotten now. But the car
Tim
ahead.
McLeish.
Yeah, so Tim McLeish got a little loose and was trying to save it, and Gilles just didn't react in time and plowed right into the back.
And that looks like some heavy damage on both of those cars, so I'm going to assume that they will most likely be retiring, unfortunately.
That was the 95 Tim McLeish marked as in the pits, and he was nowhere near the pits, so he must have escaped out. So, like, Gilles is going to try to... Yeah, that's him checking out right there. So Tim McLeish out of the race. Looks though like Gilles is going to try to hobble back to the pits and repair the car. And number 31, yep, there he is, entering the pits.
Along with Brent Briles, who had an earlier incident, so maybe if they both got those cars repaired, they could find themselves in a race back in their little sphere of influence at the, unfortunately, at the back of the field. But always when you try to get a damaged car home, because you don't want to try to get as many points as possible, at least it's fun to have someone else with a damaged car to race with. We'll see if that's the case there.
Going back to the battle at the front of the Daytona prototype field, it looks like, well, all the 3 cars are still very close. Looks like Tim Stoll fell back a little bit from Russell Cow. Now he's going to be coming under pressure from his teammate Mike Kelly, also looking to have quite strong pacer at Watkins Glen.
And something I'm noticing here too is that Russell Cow in open air, he seems to be able to pull up a little bit of a gap over Timothy Stoll. He's able to make less mistakes in open air. Once we get into traffic, it looks like Tim just zeroes in and really gets that gap closed right down. He's able to race Russell pretty hard until Russell's able to get out about a second gap, which he's at pretty much exactly a second right now. So we'll see if he's able to pull out at all, or if Timothy can bring that back down again.
Jump on board with Gregory Schaefer, currently running in 7th, and he is chasing down John Kelly right up in front of him by about half a second. And this is the battle for 6th place, I guess 5th if you count the car in front. And looks like Tim Stoll losing a bit more time on the leader Russell Cowell. The car is separated by about 1.5 seconds now. Mike Kelly looking quite strong right behind his teammate. Looks like he... I'm not sure if he's better in open air like you mentioned Russell Cowell seems to be, but he definitely looked like he wants to get around his teammate.
Yeah, Mike Kelly this season has really been flying in the race. He's been pretty consistently near the front. I mean, Russell Cowell has been qualifying half a second to a second ahead of his nearest rivals in some cases, but I guess Mike Kelly is his nearest rival, and in fact leading the championship at this point. Has really been able to take it to Russell come race day, and I'm not sure if Mike just doesn't put as much effort into a qualifying lap or a qualifying setup as Russell does, but it seems that in these long runs, especially these Enduros, and well, actually in all these races, he's able to keep the pace up, and right now putting his teammate Timothy Stoll under a lot of pressure.
Yeah, if you think back to our first endurance race that we held at Spa, Russell Cowell was comfortably ahead of the field based on his qualifying time, but it was Mike Kelly that had the overall race pace and ended up having a great race there, as well as he looks to put a move on his teammate going into turn 1, had the speed going down, and looked like Tim Stoll might have left the door open just a little bit, but I couldn't get the power coming off the corner, and it'll still remain Tim Stoll 2nd, Mike Kelly 3rd.
Yeah, as you notice, going through the first corner there, Tim Stoll ran wide, missed the apex a little bit, which would normally have been Mike Kelly's chance to make a run on him. However, Mike, being as close as he was, actually had to pinch the steering down to avoid Timothy on the outside, which kind of negated any run he may have got if he was able to track out properly there. So it's a very close call between teammates, but unfortunately not one that Mike was able to take advantage of.
Got a very close battle here between Gregory Schaefer and John Kelly for 6th place, and they're separated by maybe half a car length that through some of these corners. Gregory Schaefer, we haven't seen a whole lot of him so far this season, but he's having a great race here at Watkins Glen.
I would like to point out too that my colleague Anthony Muna is ahead of this battle for the entire race. I mean, he's not that far ahead, but he's been maintaining his gap and kind of avoiding all this door-to-door shenanigans that we've been seeing here, which very entertaining for us, but as a driver trying to navigate a very difficult Cadillac race car around the track here for 2 hours, something I want to try to avoid the entire time. It is fun from time to time, but for 2 straight hours trying to hold that car on the track is become a little stressful.
Yeah, I'm sure that if guys are battling like John Kelly and Gregory Schaefer are right now, the entire endurance race, or most of the endurance race, are going to be a lot more tired come the end of the race. Go back to the Turn 1 Heroes drivers running 2nd and 3rd place in the DP class, and they're pretty much the same distance apart as when we last took a look at them, but a big difference now is Russell Cowell. Might be able to just see him up there in the distance. He's got about 2.5 seconds over 2nd place Timothy Stoll, and there is a bit of traffic, so that we might see that gap come down depending on how many cars there are. They should be catching this group that we're following right now in probably a couple laps time.
All right, back to the battle for 2nd here. We have Tim Stoll still he's dropped about 3 seconds behind the leader, Russell Cowell, right now. So Mike Kelly, I think, feels he probably has the pace to run him down, at least peg the gap at wherever it is. And he's really putting his teammate under pressure here. And hopefully, for his sake, he's able to make the move sooner rather than later. He's going to try one right here.
Looks like he might... I thought he might have it under braking. He was able to get it alongside, but Tim Stoll was able to take it a little bit deeper into the corner, got more speed, and able to maintain his position there.
Actually, that camera angle there really kind of highlighted the elevation changes of this track. I mean, it's not severe, but it's definitely up and down and very, very fun to drive. It's one thing that we talk about the other visits we've had here for our broadcast, but it is a very, very enjoyable track to drive around.
And about 2/10 separating these two drivers. It looks like Mike Kelly going to take a look on the inside, not close enough, and not going to be able to make a move there going into turn 1. Catches the curb a little off there going through turn 1, gets a bit of oversteer, loses a bit of time on his teammate.
Yeah, he had a back marker up ahead of him, which is something he could try to take advantage of, but I think the gap is high enough now that Timothy should be able to clear that no problem as we're back to the Cadillac battle here. And that's Dan Gralty up ahead of these guys here, which has allowed John Kelly to pull back up on Anthony Muniz in a very similarly colored car as to what he normally runs, so it's actually easier to pick out. Sponsors are a little different, but the colors are roughly the same.
You can see in the I was actually just going to point out Gregory Schaefer in the rear view camera on Kelly's car. You can see he was gaining very close, and Schaefer seems to have quite a bit of pace. He almost has to come to a standstill there to avoid running into the back of Kelly's Cadillac. Lose a little bit of time because of that, but Schaefer definitely seems to have the pace. He just can't quite find the speed he needs to get around Kelly at the right points of the circuit.
Alright, so this is turn 9 here, and there's, like I say, one of the more difficult corners in the track. They're able to run through there no problem. Back to the last corner here with Gary Miller trying to run down Jerry Knitter, who's, these guys are about 3 seconds behind that battle that we were just watching. This is the battle for 8th. Just what we're talking about there, the leader, James Cullen, in the Cadillacs is about 4 seconds ahead of Eduardo Benica. Todd Carver is another 13 seconds behind Eduardo, with Ryan Huff in 4th place and another 15 seconds behind Todd. So that's pretty spread out, and the battle starts at about 5th position and is running its way back to 9th.
Yeah, for the most part, the Daytona prototypes are fairly spread out, with the exception of these two drivers here. Russell Cow currently has about a 3.2 second lead over Timothy Stoll in 2nd. The rest of the drivers are pretty spread out. I guess Brian Carey is about 2 seconds behind John Middleton, so that could become a battle depending on those two drivers' pace. But this is a pretty close battle right here, and let's see if Gregory Schaefer is really trying to find a way around John Kelly, but Kelly able to place his car in all the right places to deny that pass.
We're back with Mike Kelly here. We are just now past Nosing. We're just past the first half-hour mark, about 31 and a half minutes into the race here. So we're going to start seeing some pit stops, I think, for some of these cars. I think we're looking at a 3-stop race for all these cars. Is that correct?
I think 2 stops.
Okay. I honestly don't remember because... like I said, I didn't remember what track we were running on here, so I don't remember what the pit stop strategy was.
At least for the Cadillacs, it should be 2 stops. And Gregory Schaefer, that could be his moment of opportunity. He's going to get on the inside, going into the S's. Let's see if John Kelly is going to yield as they head through. It looks like, yes, he finally yields. You can catch it on the review camera there. So Gregory Schaefer able to take advantage of Russell Cow coming through on turn 1. Able to follow him through and get past John Kelly as they head through the S's section. Good move there by Gregory Schaefer to make that pass.
There's Jerry Knitter there with Gary Miller right behind him, and some of the Daytona prototypes. It looks like John Middleton and Brian Carey coming through.
Yeah, I wondered if Brian Carey would be able to close that gap. It was about 2 seconds the last I looked at it, and with traffic now, Brian Carey able to close within a second of John Middleton. So that'll be interesting to see if that's purely because John Middleton was held up by traffic, or if Brian Carey has the pace, or a combination of both, as it looks like we're trying to lock onto the car of John Rosudos, but instead we are going to follow around Lauren Bateman as he just turns several laps behind the field. We'll go back to the battle between John Middleton and Brian Carey. This is the battle for 4th place in class, and there's a bit of traffic for these two drivers to negotiate and see if Brian Carey can't take advantage of the slower GT cars like Greg Schaefer was able to do. Taking a look at Mike Kelly, and he is the first one that I've caught at least to make a scheduled pit stop. And we're down to 1 hour and 26 minutes left in the race, so he is the first leading Daytona. Actually, Russell Cow also in the pits. So a couple of the leading Daytona prototypes making their first pit stops.
Russell Cow is not in the pits.
I'm sorry, I read that. Totally read that wrong. You're totally right.
Russell Cow is still about 2.5 seconds ahead of Timothy Stahl right now. So there's Chuck Chambliss we haven't seen yet in his number 15 machine. Gary Miller coming up behind Jerry Knitter still. This is a very intense battle that's going on 35 minutes now.
Yeah, they've kind of lost touch with the Cadillacs that they were following earlier at the start of the race, but these two guys have stayed pretty much nose to tail for the whole race so far. And that was a close incident of oversteer there for Jerry Knitter. He managed to correct that nicely as he came out of the bus stop and didn't really lose all that much time because of it.
Yeah, I know. If we saw that on the screen there from the outside, you could see that. Inside the car, Jerry must have been having kittens because that was not a place you want to be losing the car. And we've got Greg Schaefer after being able to clear John Kelly. He's right up to the back of Anthony Muniz right now, so Gregory Schaefer is definitely moving forward. Actually, just realizing it's one of those things that it'd be awesome to be able to see most recent lap times and whatnot, just to get an idea of everyone's relative pace without having to kind of figure out from the gaps we see in the screen here. Obviously, we can see when gaps are closing up and whatnot, but it looks like Gregory Schaefer's pace might be kind of on par with some of the guys up front, so we'll see, as he was able to close right onto Anthony Muniz's tail, and he might be poised to make a pass any moment now.
Also catch the battle between Gary Knitter and Gary Miller right here as the camera switches to them as they head into turn 1.
Jerry and Gary battling hard on track. Well, Gary trying to stick his nose in there, hopefully get position, wasn't able to do it. Oh, Anthony Muniz and Greg Schaefer both off the track as they let that car go by, but I think Greg Schaefer made out a little bit better than Muniz and is able to take the position. Let's see if he's able to hold it through the bus stop. That's one thing noticing too, is when you make a pass on the inside going to the bus stop, especially one that you weren't necessarily expecting or setting up, very, very easy to enter too fast and overshoot the corner, but it looks like Gregory Schaefer has made it and he's holding on to 5th position.
It's also close between Knitter and Miller, a couple Daytona prototypes. There's Dan Coroni right behind him, and he's currently still being chased by John Rossettos. He is basically stayed within a second, although we haven't been able to lock onto him. You can see we're watching the number 1 of Lauren Bateman when we should be watching Rossettos. But yeah, he's been able to stick pretty close to Coroni for the majority of the race. He fell back a little bit, but with traffic, now he's right on his tail.
However, John has a history of making the most of some long stints, so with almost 40 minutes on the clock, we should expect Quaroni to pit reasonably soon, and at that point, we'll see Rossettos go by, I expect.
That would be possibly correct there, but I think it's John Kuzland who's the undisputed master of the long run. I don't want to say anything about John Rossettos. I'm sure he's very, very good at it, but I don't want to. John Kuzland, who doesn't seem to be in this race today, unfortunately for him, but is the as history has shown.
As predicted, Quaroni is in the pits and Rossettos gets by. So, but you are right.
That was a very good prediction, I might add. We do not have any inside knowledge at all about situations such as those, so viewers at home be very, very impressed. It's kind of accuracy we bring to you here at the ISRA GTC series. Hey, there's John Rossettos going by Schaefer and Muniz. So he definitely exists and is definitely still in this race.
Go back to Jerry Knitter, who is still battling with Gary Miller, but now Eduardo Benica has split up their battle as, well, actually it looks like he's going to get by now. Yeah, Benica being one of the first Cadillacs to make their scheduled pit stop, but he able to get past both of those cars fairly quickly. And the battle between Knitter and Miller resumes for 8th place. for it.
All right, so got again the action we've seen so far. There, we still got an hour and 20 minutes left, and even our longest races, the otherwise, are an hour and 15 minutes. So we're not even at the point yet where we're at the would be the start time of our typical longer races. So.
Yeah, that's something that we usually try and look for when we're watching these endurance races back. Is the point that when our normal races end, because a lot of times once we get to about that point, drivers will start making mistakes, because I'm not sure if it's just because they're used to running the 70 or 75 minute races, and then after that they kind of almost lose their concentration and have to try and regain it and think ahead for the next 40-45 minutes or whatever it might be. But it'll be interesting once we get to our normal race distance to see if those issues creep back up. They usually tend to. I think we saw quite a few of those at Spa, so it'll be interesting to see once we get there.
This is Mike Kelly. He's first to make a pit stop there, and he's very, very trying hard to make up some time with fresh tires, but being held up pretty badly by some of those cars there. Just not a lot of room to get out of their way, and Mike's got a huge gaggle of traffic he's got to work his way through, while Timothy Stoll and Russell Cow might be able to pull away from him, and even to some extent John Middleton and Brian Carey could be taking advantage of Mike's difficult run through traffic.
Yeah, unfortunately, Mike Kelly might not have picked the best time to make his pit stop. I mean, obviously, if he was about to run out of fuel, there's nothing you can do to help it, but sometimes cars are able to get out with clean air in front of them and put in some really quick lap times once the pit stop cycle through, they may be able to jump a couple cars. Mike Kelly right now stuck behind a lot of GT traffic. That's probably not going to be happening for him.
Yeah, actually, one thing I want to point out too, for those people listening out here right now, is our new ISRA GTC Season 9 will be starting on November 26th, so I'd assume that you'll be seeing this probably a short time before that season gets underway. So if you'd like to, if you're interested in what we're doing and want to find out what's going on, you can visit israleague.com. And the cars that actually will be switching up cars this year will be going back to a 3-car multi-class format with the HPD, the Radical, and the 4GT making a return. So look forward to the first combination of the Radical and ISRA.
Yeah, that actually is the first time that at least I'm aware that the GTC has included the Radical, and I'm sure it's been quite a popular car. A lot of guys are looking forward to driving it. A lot of good discussion about it in the forums, but I believe there are a few spots available, so go ahead and quickly sign up if you're interested before when all those spaces fill up. We'll jump back onto the action on the circuit, and it's John Middleton currently leading. Well, not leading the class, but he's leading Brian Carey, and this is a battle for second place right now. Russell Cow currently making his first scheduled pit stop, so they're jumping a spot, and eventually they'll have to give that back once they make their pit stops. But right now, it's a battle for second place.
Yeah, some of this race is starting to come back to me. I do remember. I just remember John and I had a good battle, and that's really the details of which kind of hard to pin down. But we're back with apparently John Rosettos is doing something awesome, but we can't see it right now because we're with someone else. I think Russell Cow had just got, or he had just got past Russell Cow coming out of the pits.
And you would be correct. Russell Cow rejoining the circuit in 6th place. We'll go back to the Middleton Carey battle, though, because we can actually see what the real battle is happening. Right, Carey able to pretty much maintain the gap even through traffic of about a second to a second and a half right now. John Middleton really missing his apex there in turn 7, and that allows Brian Carey to pull up to about within 0.3 of a second. And Middleton again kind of sliding through that turn 8 corner. Carey right there. I'm not sure if he's able to make it. Looks like not sure he's going to be able to make a move, but John Middleton having trouble making his apexes right now.
Oh, Stephen Clark coming into the pit lane right now. That's out of 7th position. There's Timothy Stoll going to lead another lap. Haven't seen a lot of Stephen Clark there, but having a pretty good run in the Cadillac in the top 10.
And Russell Cow really having issues right now. He's losing quite a bit of time coming out behind John Rossetto's. They're fighting their way through GT traffic, and also this isn't actually a battle. Rossetto still has to make his pit stop, so I'm sure Russell Cow looking to, or was hoping to get some clean air coming out of his pit stop and then make up some time on his competitors, but right now probably a little bit held up.
Yeah, John Rossettos is in a battle of his own right now too. He's trying to make sure that before his pit stops he can gap Dan Caroni, I think in particular. Yeah. So it's kind of a difficult position. You can't let Russell Cow by, because that might make the difference between his position, but at the same time, Russell Cow is seeing his lead to Timothy Stahl possibly eroded, the advantage of his fresher tires being lost behind John Rossettos.
And of course, because these drivers aren't, you can see Russell Cow definitely a lot faster coming through the bus stop there, but neither John Rossettos does not have to yield his position, although it looks like Russell Cow is going to be able to get by here going into the boot. Turn 6, yeah, and he indeed does, but Rossettos doesn't have to let him by. He, like Brian said, he's in his own battle. He's trying to put in some quick laps and jump ahead of Dan Caroni because of pit stops. As Tim Stoll finally comes into the pits, I think he'll probably lead one more lap depending on when John Middleton comes across. Oh, actually, he comes across right there with Brian Carey just behind, so he won't end up leading that, but John Middleton will get a lap led in, so that's very good.
Looking at the time here, Rossettos is about 31 seconds ahead of Quaroni at the moment. If I remember correctly, Quaroni's pit stop took 49 seconds there in the pits, so he's going to have to pull out quite a bit better lead right now if he wants to gap and get ahead through pit stop.
And we've got a pretty intense battle going on right now. Oh, well, we'll jump away from it, but that was pretty intense. Brian Carey was right under the rear wing of John Middleton. It looked like he had a great run going into the bus stop. Unfortunately, couldn't try and make a move. Wasn't that quick, but Brian Carey definitely seems to have some pace, and he's going to be battling. I think that will turn into potentially 4th place once the pit stop cycle through, so that is a pretty good finishing position. Brian Carey usually does pretty well on the endurance races, and so it'll be
Oh, Timothy Stahl actually coming out of his pits there. Him and Mike Kelly were basically nose to tail. Mike Kelly 7.5 seconds behind Timothy Stahl after the pit stop, so yeah, just an idea of what could be lost. Yeah,
that's the difference right there between the coming out in GT traffic and then coming out in relatively clean air, as we see Dan Caroni able to get past John Rossettos after he makes his pit stop. But yep, go back to the Middleton-Carey battle, and Brian Carey is right on under that rear wing of John Middleton. Go on board now. This is a pretty good way to watch as they head through the final couple corners. Carey definitely seems to be pretty quick and challenging to get by, but well, I guess he'll get by now and he'll actually lead a lap. So Brian Carey able to lead at least one lap in the race, but both of those drivers, Carey and John Middleton, yes, pretty close in pace. So that'll be interesting to see where they come out after pit stop cycle through.
Since John Kuzlin isn't in the race there, someone had to go longest, and it's Chuck Chambliss in 3rd place is in the pits right now. He was about 10 seconds behind Carey when that whole thing started, so we'll see how they all slot in.
See, this is the gap right there between Russell Cow and Timothy Stoll. Both of those guys moving up to 2nd and 3rd place respectively, as we had Middleton and Chuck Chambliss in the pits. The gap between them is currently about 3 seconds, so that is smaller than when they first made their first pit stop. So I'm guessing that comes down to Russell Cow being held up a little bit there by John Rossettos. And we'll go on board now with Mike Kelly currently in 5th place, and you can see he actually loses a spot to John Middleton. Middleton making his pit stop, and this is these guys are this is a real position. Both of those drivers making their pit stop, so Kelly getting held up quite a bit and losing a lot of time, it turns out.
Ryan Huff making his first pit stop there. Yep, that's one thing. I guess that should. It's pretty deep into the race for Ryan Huff there, so one more pit stop for him, I believe. And it looks like Brian Carey is into the pits right now. honestly don't remember what happens. This is kind of exciting.
Got a good battle here between John Kelly and Gary Miller, although we'll jump away to go and look at the battle between Middleton and Kelly. This is the battle for 4th place, although they will should be able to jump up one more spot once they pass Brian Carey, who is making his pit stop.
You'd think so, but maybe not.
Yeah, they're quite a ways back, and Carey's been in the pits for a good long while. Let's see, he should be exiting pretty quick. We'll see what happens. Oh, and there's Carey right there, and looks like Brian Carey going to maintain his 3rd position, so he's able to get a decent gap. You can see there's John Middleton right there, so Carey leapfrogs Mike Kelly and John Middleton in the pits. And we know Mike Kelly was held up quite a bit by GT traffic, but he's able to get a pretty decent gap between himself and John Middleton, who he was following pretty much nose to tail when they made their pit stops. Right now the gap is about 1.5 seconds. You can see it there, so that's a great pit strategy there by Brian Carey, able to take advantage of the track and made the most of it.
Yeah, it does seem like it's looking pretty good, but stay tuned, folks. There's probably more action ahead. We're back on with Eduardo Benica is our leader right now. He's got about a 2-second lead over James Cullen. I think they both made some pit stops here, so Eduardo taking advantage of that and finding himself in the lead. As Greg Schaefer is in the pits right now, so we'll see if he's able to... nope, he's dropped behind Todd Carver. But more than likely we'll stay ahead of Anthony Muniz, but we'll wait for that to kind of work its way out.
Go back to the battle for, I guess, what effectively is a podium position. Brian Carey does have a bit of a gap between himself and the 2 cars of John Middleton and Mike Kelly. But as they work their way through some GT traffic, looks like they're going to be held up a little bit. See Brian Carey's car right up there as we ride on over with myself.
Schaefer's still in the pits right now with Muniz coming up behind him, so let's see when that pit light goes out. I'll let you know. No, Muniz has gone past, so I don't know what happened to Greg Schaefer there, but looks like he's got more than just a regular pit stop. Muniz is up to 4th position. And getting swamped by some Daytona prototypes, able to hold his line pretty well, so I didn't lose him too much time there. But it means Ryan Huff is now, he's a leapfrog Ryan Huff as well, so Ryan Huff is about just under 1.5 seconds behind Muniz, so that battle's shaping up. Mike Kelly not being able to do anything about John Middleton right now.
Yeah, we saw, well, when we were watching the battle between Middleton and Carey, Middleton was definitely had pace. He was looking quite strong, and Mike Kelly, also, while also very fast, the drivers that are in front of him are also very strong. So we saw the battle between himself and his teammate, Timothy Stoll, and it was a tough battle for Kelly to try and get by. So it'll be interesting to see how well he does against John Middleton. Meanwhile, Brian Carey extending his lead to about 3 seconds over John Middleton. So once they get, they're pretty much, looks like they're out of GT traffic right now. So it's going to come down to pure race pace in open air. We'll see how that shapes out. But Brian Carey definitely better through the GT traffic in the opening since, oh,
yep, there we go.
Commentator curse. I said he was doing too well, and spins it coming out of turn 9, and looks like he hit the barrier. How much damage was on the car?
It had about 2.5 wheels, and I think it was on fire.
Oh, well, unfortunately, Brian Carey is going to have to retire there from a podium position. That's unfortunate.
Did the same thing there.
He did, yeah. Man, I need to shut up. I'm cursing everyone we're watching. Yeah, I can see Brian Carey right there on the side trying to get back to the pit lane, but it looks like he's most likely going to probably just escape out. Too bad, though, because that was a great pit strategy that he used to leapfrog 2 cars, get himself up into 3rd place.
Actually, now it's all coming flooding back. What had happened was I'd had that one incident at the bus stop where I had to give up position to Mike Kelly. I had a spin at the very exact same spot where it looks like I'm in the pits to retire right now. Didn't hit anything, but lost position to John Middleton where I had to chase him back down. Had the speed where I was holding on to the leaders, it seemed like, but one of those things where occasionally my 5-plus-year-old crappy computer was not up to the task, and going through that corner there, I decided briefly to stop providing me information for about a second, which was all it took for me to end up backwards into the wall.
Yeah, that's the worst place to have that happen. Turn 9, arguably the most difficult corner on this circuit, and yeah, unfortunate to have that happen at that particular turn.
Well, in fairness, I think it's just because of the nature of the corner there, why it's most difficult is a lot is going on with the car. It's a very high graphical and processor load, so if anything is going to happen right here as we're going through turn 9 right now, it tends to be that corner. That's one of those things where you know, you talk about the equipment that you have. Normally in real life racing, you talk about the quality of the cars, your mechanics, just the preparation, that sort of thing that you have with the cars. And you know, the good teams have good preparation, they don't break down, that sort of thing. Same thing with online racing, except that the cars on iRacing are all prepared equally as far as the simulator goes. However, people's computers can go from my end of the spectrum, which is a kind of middle-of-the-road 5-year-old Dell computer with a slightly updated graphics card, to my colleague Dan Crony, who has Cray supercomputers downstairs in a basement somewhere, running like 30 screens and some sort of hyperbaric simulator chamber that you can go see it at Sim Racing Dan's Sim Racing Dan race channel on YouTube and see exactly what I'm talking about. I may exaggerate a little bit, but you'll get the idea.
Wow, hyperbaric chamber. Yeah.
Ultimate sim setup right there.
You know that part from The Empire Strikes Back where Luke's in that container after being frozen on the ice world of Hoth? It's something like that, only race simulator like. Except it's nothing like that at all. But again, Sim Racing Dan, I think it's all one word on YouTube. Is that correct, Dan?
Yep, all one word, all lowercase.
That being said, if you're watching this right now, I don't need to tell you because you literally are on Sim Racing Dan's channel. So just click on through.
On the YouTube channel, they can still watch me race live over at twitch.tv.
Yes, so like I said before, if you want to sign up for ISRAleague.com, come there and do that. However, if you're just interested in watching Dan race live on November 26th at 10 p.m. Eastern, find your way over to Twitch TV and find Dan's channel there. It's very, very interesting viewing there. I haven't ever had a chance to watch it because typically I'm in the race with Dan, but ever given the opportunity, I'm sure it's interesting to see a live driver's take as we cut back to a battle here with our own Anthony Muniz in 4th place, holding off Ryan Huff in a very, very close battle. And Dan Crony there just in the front end of the screen in the white, blue, and orange car. Also, we have a quiet moment near the halfway point of the race too as we're watching the battle here is our main sponsor, Z1Simwheel.com. Z1 Simwheel is coming out with a bunch of different products. We'd been the main sponsor was the LCD display, which we'd shown some of the sample screens there at the beginning of our broadcast, but as Dan mentioned also at the beginning of our broadcast, they are selling the software differently. So not only is it a very good hardware addition to add to the front of your steering wheel, but also the software there too. If you had a second screen, and I think they're working on other peripheral support, but basically it'll be able to do things like live fuel calculations, pit stop strategies, other things that you aren't able to easily do in the iRacing software, which is a very, very good addition whether you go the hardware or the software route. So Z1Simwheel.com.
And we'll go back to the action on track, and it's still a battle between a close battle between Mike Kelly and John Middleton. Mike Kelly getting quite a bit of oversteer there, going through turn 9, loses some distance to John Middleton. Both I've noticed as we've cut back to this battle every now and then, these guys really seem to be pushing these cars. See a bit of drifting through the corners, a bit of oversteer coming out. These guys are really pushing hard right now, trying to well, Mike Kelly trying to catch up and pass John Middleton, and Middleton trying to hold him off.
See, I think what Mike Kelly was doing there, and he can correct me on the forums later if I'm wrong, but it seems that he had figured out exactly how much fuel he needed for the race, and then basically set his pit stops knowing he would have to make the 2 pit stops to set the pit stops to kind of be at equal distances, which did one of 2 things. It allowed him to pit a little bit earlier, go into fresh tires, and the idea behind that is, I mean, you're going to be running lighter, so you should be running a little bit faster, but then we'll go to fresh tires earlier and able to pull out a little bit more of a gap. However, it didn't seem to work out quite for him He lost the time where he should have been gaining time with fresher tires and relatively low fuel. And now he's in a situation where John Middleton has fresher tires than he does. He's running out ahead of him. We'll end up pitting later, and we'll have fresher tires at the end of the race. So Mike's really pushing hard to try to get ahead of John, because he's knows he's going to have to put a certain amount of gap between them to be able to come out ahead of him in the last pit stops.
Yeah, that's really a situation where it would be quite helpful to have a engineer sitting on the pit wall helping you out, trying to make those calculations. In a real live race situation, or if you have someone spotting for you now, they would be able to check the gaps and where the traffic is on the circuit. Unless it's not a good time to pit right now. If you pit now, you're going to come out in heavy traffic. John Middleton really losing it through turn 9, very slow on the exit though. Then that allows Mike Kelly to close the gap to about half a second. So good break there from Mike Kelly, because he was starting to fall behind.
Good segue there. As Anthony said, it'd be good to have an engineer there, where if you were to visit Z1 SimWheel and check out their race software, it'd be an extreme help in those sort of exact situations. So Mike Kelly might find a benefit from visiting z1simwheel.com.
And it's worth noting also that the Grand Touring Championship has a Clean Driver Award, and one of those LCD displays does go to the winner of that competition. And in order to score points there, you need to race with 0 incident points, and that's the rule of this season for Season 8. It's going to change up a little bit for Season 9, loosen it up, in my opinion. It's an improvement, so I think we'll see better competition in there. But the gist of it, I don't remember the specifics, I can go look it up since we have so much time, but the gist of it is that if no one scores 0 points, there can still be points scored to the lowest drivers.
Yeah, we've got some intense battles going on here between Middleton and Kelly as they work their way through traffic. But yeah, I actually really like the way that they've changed the regulations regarding the Clean Driver Award. I believe, you have to correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the way that you score points now is if you are able to score 0 incidents in a race, you automatically get a point. But also, a point is awarded to the driver in each class that has the lowest amount of incident points. So you can still score a point even if you have, say, 3 or 4 incident points, but you're the lowest driver in the class. So I really think that is going to allow it to be much more competitive between, or for the, I guess, the grand prize of a display from Z1 SimWheel. And because in the past it's been, once you get that 1X, well, there's no reason to try and not get any more incident points. You're just going to, especially at Spa, where some guys, somehow, I don't know how, are able to go and get 0 incident points. But if once you hit 1, there's really no reason to try and keep it on the track there after that initial first one. So now, with this new system, there's more incentive to try and keep those incident points low.
Yeah, it's one of the things that would happen is, like Anthony was saying, is you get the 1 incident point, really in the race, if you got 1 incident point or 20, you still didn't get a point. However, even if you're not the top driver in your group right now, I think there is a tie-breaking system where they take into what's known as corners per incident. So for those of you out here who don't quite follow, although the iRacers, I'm sure, are very well versed on the incident point system, but basically what will happen is, sure, you might not win, be the lowest amount in each race, but there's still an incentive over the season to maintain that clean driving record. So you don't want to just, at a track like Spa or a track like wherever where you end up running into someone, there is an incentive to have a season-long clean driver as opposed to just the one with the most races clean. If that makes any sense. It may not. In the meantime, John Middleton and Mike Kelly are hammers and thongs right now. Hammers and thongs? That does not sound right.
Seriously.
Hammers and tongs.
That's a little bit better.
Yeah, no, you know what? Hell with it. Hammers and thongs. That's what's happening right now, and they are battling hard. So I'll just let that one hang.
Been watching too much Dexter or something. I don't know. Where else would we find hammers and thongs coming together?
I will honestly say, though, that is one show that I would very much like to watch. I haven't actually seen an episode, so any reference to Dexter is purely coincidental. Any other reference to anything to do with anything else with what I said is also purely coincidental. So whatever references, I don't even know how to talk anymore. It's past the hour point in an endurance race. So I'll just leave it at that.
Well, we'll go back to the action on the track. John Kelly, I'm doing the same thing. John Middleton still able to hold off Mike Kelly. These guys are been pretty close for the last few laps. Once John Middleton had that fairly large incident heading through turn 9 that allowed Mike Kelly to catch back up. Once he's caught back up and closed the gap, been able to get more draft effect off of the back of Middleton's car. He's been able to stick right with him. Both of these guys definitely seem to be right on the ragged edge, though. They're pushing their cars quite hard.
Yeah, this is. I just want to put a rumor to rest here. Some of you may have been thinking that John Kelly was actually a result of an incident between John Middleton and Mike Kelly in a previous race, and that they were actually the same driver. But as you can see here, you can clearly see John Middleton and Mike Kelly, two separate cars, as well as John Kelly is holding 8th position down in the Cadillac. So hopefully, maybe at some point, we'll see all three of them on the track at once and put that rumor to rest once and for all. But not that it has anything to do with anything, but back in, for those of you who remember, in 1992, or 91, I guess, when Magic Johnson first announced that he had been diagnosed with AIDS, and it was a huge shock. Shortly thereafter, businessman Ross Perot entered the presidential race, only to drop out several months later. Coincidentally, the same time that Magic Johnson made a brief NBA comeback over, Ross Perot was back in the presidential race. So there's a lot of thought back in the day that Ross Perot and Magic Johnson were the same person, much in the way that John Middleton and Mike Kelly are John Kelly. I swear to everyone at home, I have not been drinking. I have a cup of water right here. Perfectly legit. It's just a long race, and we got to get through some stuff. So.
Oh, we've got these two guys really able to stick with each other, and I don't think they've been more than half a second apart for the last 10 minutes. A little optimistic, but they've been pretty close. So this is a battle it's been developing for the past 10 minutes or so, and it's finally come to fruition. It's Eduardo Benica. He's been leading the Cadillacs for quite a while now after their initial pit stops. James Cullen finally able to close the gap between those two cars. I believe it was a couple seconds. Oh, and there's a car off right there. 15, I think that's Chuck Chambliss. So unfortunately, Chuck Chambliss having an incident. He was running in 5th place, and he'll obviously drop now because of that. That's unfortunate for Chuck. He was having a pretty strong race, but James Cullen was a couple of seconds back from Benica after their first pit stop. So it's taken him quite a while, but he's been able to close the gap. They're about half a second apart now.
Yeah, James found out through the team radio that he wasn't being featured on the broadcast, so he decided to close that gap back up and get some camera time there. And also, unfortunately, Chuck Chambliss, I think he suffers from the same computer yips that I do from time to time, so not sure if one of those caught him out or just his right foot, but that regardless, he seems to be probably out of the race.
And just going over some of the overall gaps right now, we have this close battle between Benica and Cullen here for first place in the Cadillacs. Over for the leaders in Daytona Prototypes, it has quieted down quite a bit when you think about how this race started between those top 3 drivers. Russell Kyle still your leader, but and he's managed to put about 6.5 second gap between himself and Timothy Stahl, who has a further 8.5 seconds over John Middleton, and then of course Mike Kelly is about a half a second just behind Middleton. Or I did it again. Mike Kelly about half a second behind John Middleton.
Swear those rumors are not true.
Yeah, here we go. We'll go back to that. We'll go to that battle right now between Middleton and Kelly. I'm just going to use their last names. Bit of GT traffic they have to work their way through.
Yeah, and we've got James Cullen. I mean, he's 0.4 of a second behind Benica there for the lead. We're not seeing it right now. This is still a battle for 3rd, which is very intense as well. And see, the thing with these cars is, you notice here, is right in perfect draft position. There's just really not enough of a draft here. They don't punch a big hole in the air. Oh, and that being said, looks like Mike's got to the inside, but John on the outside has a better run, able to get to a little bit better acceleration off turn 1. But as I was saying there, the draft on the Daytona Prototypes isn't severe enough that you'd pull up on someone. If you're in the Formula 1 car, or even the HPD, and you got that close, you'd be able to draft right up on someone and just slingshot by. These Rileys, not so much.
Yeah, these, I think it would be a little bit easier for these cars to pass if we weren't running the bus stop right there, because the length of the straightaway, I think it's roughly the same between I guess what would be the front straight and the back straight heading into the bus stop. They're roughly the same length, give or take a bit. And I guess you really need a little bit more drafting to be able to get the job done easily, unless you have a big advantage coming out of turn 11 or I guess through the S's. So we've definitely seen some intense battles between the Daytona prototypes, but it's definitely been hard for the guys that are looking to pass, and a little bit easier for the guys defending.
The guys going around the outside of Muniz there in turn 9, which is very, very difficult. Able to hold on to it all right. Muniz, that battle with Ryan Huff is now about 3 seconds ahead of him right now, so that's spread out a little bit. The big battles are the ones we're seeing right here between Kelly and Middleton, as well as between Cullen and Benica for the lead of the Cadillacs. Just looking through the field to see if there's anything similarly close, and well, Gary Miller's about 2.5 seconds behind Gregory Schaefer, but other than that, not really.
Yeah, with only 49 minutes left in the race, we're over the normal, or just about over the normal race length that we run. So this will be the time to see if guys start making mistakes, because it's it's a longer race distance than they are used to running. Right now, we had some very intense action at the start of the race. Everyone's kind of getting into more what we think of as endurance racing, or the endurance race mode. At the start of the race, it was almost like they were thinking it was going to be a 2-hour sprint race.
Now, judging by the, and I'm just going by my own pit stop itself, once we get to about the 45-minute mark here, theoretically these Daytona prototypes could pit and make it to the end. That'd be stretching a little bit for most of these guys here, but in the next 4 minutes here, we're going to start to see the final pit stops for those Daytona prototypes. I think the Cadillac's a little bit more free with their stops.
Yeah.
Could theoretically pit right now and make it to the end, so basically what I'm saying right now is next round of pit stops for everyone involved will be their last, so that could start happening almost any time.
And also, now that we've had some retirements, we've had guys that have had incidents, and speaking of incidents, Mike Kelly has a big drama coming out of turn 9. He's going to lose a lot of time. Manages to save it, doesn't collect any damage there on the Armco barrier, but he's dropped quite a bit back behind John Middleton.
Yeah, that might be a blessing in disguise, actually, because he was stuck right up behind him. He might need a run to get around him.
Yeah, we'll have to see how that works out now that he's got some clean air, see what kind of pace that he has, and see if he's able to catch back up, because we know it was Middleton that had an issue coming out of turn 9 that allowed him to catch back up and really stay under the rear wing of Middleton's car. So let's see if Kelly has the overall pace that he needs to catch back up. But now that we've got a more empty track, I think guys can use their pit strategy better than what we saw in the first stint, where Kelly had issues. He pitted early, came out in heavy GT traffic, and lost a lot of time because of that. So now that we have a more empty track, it'll be interesting to see what the pit strategies are, and if people can pit a little bit earlier and then run faster laps and leapfrog people.
Eduardo Benica in the Cadillacs there is now dropped back to 9th position. I don't know what happened there. I didn't see it on the track. And if you guys mentioned it, I apologize for being an idiot. But he is now back at 9th position. So James Cullen's the lead, Todd Carver in 2nd, and Anthony Muniz is our colleague here in the booth, up to for him in this class, an unprecedented 3rd position in the Cadillac. That's well, I think, what's your best finish prior to this race?
I can't be sure, actually. It's somewhere in the top 10, not nearly up that high. It's Cadillac was a bit of a struggle to adapt to. I'm used to more of the lighter prototype cars, so while it can be a fun car to drive, definitely can be a difficult one. So I'm definitely happy with 3rd place, which I'm currently running.
There's a long way to go there, but still, Gregory Schaefer about 3 seconds behind Ryan Huff, who's about 4.5 behind Muniz right now, and Gary Miller and John Kelly. Those cars, threatening to become a battle again. I mean, they're separated by quite a few seconds each, but they're still on that same piece of track. So depending on how the pit stops play out, that could be a big deal.
Yeah, here's Gregory Schaefer right now. Looks like someone is in the pit lane. That would be Ryan Huff, deciding to make his pit stop, and he'll obviously be able to make it to the end, but choosing to pit a bit earlier, and will most likely run his fuel out. So Schaefer, at least momentarily, making a pass on him. But some of the guys that you traditionally see more towards the back of the Cadillac class have managed to outlast a lot of the guys that are maybe a bit quicker. And so that's an interesting aspect to see when we do these endurance races.
There's just a lot more variables that come into play the longer you run these cars. And I mean, Anthony was saying that we are now past the point where, actually, so we're not just past the point, we'll be past the point in 30 seconds of where we're at a regular race. But I mean, it's just so many more variables. I mean, things that, just small mistakes that, I mean, you kind of work your way around in a shorter race, kind of magnify themselves as you go on. Tires get worn, concentration wanes, perhaps. Any number of things that don't necessarily happen in 75 minutes can start happening in 2 hours. So,
And the on board with Mike Kelly right now, as he is trying to close the gap between himself and John Middleton. Still battle for third place. The gap right now is under 2 seconds, currently 1.8 seconds separating those two cars. So Kelly able to close a bit of the distance between himself and Middleton. So he definitely, right now he seems to have a bit more pace than Middleton, although I'm not sure if it's enough to for him to be able to get by. We saw when they were very close and battling quite intensely, it definitely seemed like Middleton was able to defend quite well.
Yeah, keep in mind too that Mike Kelly's tires are much older than Middleton's. He pitted well before John, so look for his pit stop, Mike's pit stop, before John Middleton's, and then once those pit stops happen, like I said, that would have been be nice to have the lap times, but we'll just have to watch the gap and see how it ebbs and flows between the two of them once when I anticipate Mike Kelly's pit stop is made.
Yeah, and just when we were riding on board there for a bit on Mike Kelly's Daytona prototype, you could see that he was really kind of sliding the car all around. Doesn't look nearly as planted as when the cars are first out with fresh tires on. And so right now I think he's definitely at the end of his run, so we should be seeing him entering the pit lanes right now. We're watching the number one Cadillac of Lauren Bateman, who is still out running after his early incident. He's currently 7 laps down from the leader right now, running in 10th place. So not terribly bad recovery on Bateman's part as we head back to Mike Kelly rather. But we were showing his car because there's the battle between John Rossettos and Daniel Coroni's come down within about a second right now, so that is getting to be pretty close between those two drivers. You can actually I think we just caught a very short glimpse of Rossetto's car there.
Up there, Tim Stahl in the pit says, looks like that should get him to the end, assuming that's a planned stop.
And I think you called this out a little bit earlier, Brian, about the some of the cars coming together in the Cadillac class. And we've got Gary Miller right now following Gregory Schaefer. And those guys have made up I think there's about 3 seconds or so separating these two cars, and now they're up down to about half a second. And this is going to be a battle for 5th place.
Yeah, look at the left side of Gregory Schaefer's car, though. He'd had that big pit stop earlier, and the race had dropped on the way back, and you can see the damage on his car there. So, ooh, look at that.
That was close.
That safety truck was ready to roll there in case he had a big one, which it looked like he almost did. So, Gary lives to fight another day. And it's like, Gary, is it Texas that his car is from there?
I think it is, yeah.
I just don't know what it is about the Texas and the Liverpool FC logos. Just don't seem to match up to me for some reason. But that being said, as we saw today, I would never have thought that Texas and Formula One would have matched up. And for those of you that watched the race this afternoon, that was a fantastic display. I'm not going to give away any of the results for people who haven't watched the race here, potentially in the booth. But just the show and the event and the like, just the whole weekend was fantastic, and very much needed boost for a North American Formula One fan such as ourselves here.
Yeah, definitely agree with you. I watched a lot of coverage on that race this weekend, and very, very enjoyable, and I'm looking to getting myself down there for a upcoming race. It looks like it's a great experience. And we're watching John Rossetto's. Well, actually, we're not watching John Rossetto's. We're trying to watch him. Currently, about a second back from Daniel Coroni, and that is a battle for 5th place in the Daytona Prototype class. So it's close between those guys. And we'll jump back to a battle we can actually see what's going on between Gregory Schaefer and Gary Miller.
Looks like he's slowing for pit stop. Yep, there we go. Gregory Schaefer into the pits.
Oh, here we go. This is the battle between that we were trying to see earlier. Coroni and Rossetto's. Rossetto's gets a good run coming down the back straight, and it looks like, ooh, they're going to go side by side. Oh, and there's a touch between Rossetto's and Coroni, and Rossetto's looks like to get the best of that. And unfortunately, Coroni's losing quite a bit of time. I'm not sure about the damage between those two cars, though.
Do you remember what happened there, Dan, damage-wise?
Yeah, it ended up being pretty light, so I think I just continued on, although I had a pit stop scheduled just about now anyway, so I think you should see the 64 marked as heading into the pits in just like 30 seconds, so...
Yeah, that was a pretty hairy situation. There was a couple of GT cars that they were looking to get by. They both Coroni and Rossetto's were able to get by one on the back straight, and they were just a bit offline. I know neither of the drivers were, quite on the racing line, so it's just kind of a hard turn for them to both make, and unfortunate that it caused an incident like that, but luckily there was no heavy damage to either car. And the battle between Middleton and Kelly has resumed. Quite a bit of GT traffic here, and also the damaged car of Brent Briles still turning laps in this race, and you can see these guys, the two, I guess wouldn't call them leading Daytona prototypes, but they are fairly high up the field, threading their way through those slower cars quite nicely. And you can see Brent Briles giving lots and lots of room for those two drivers battling to get by.
Alright, well, we're back to the position that Kelly was in before, where he was right in the tail there, and I don't think he got the run that he needed when they went through that traffic there, so I think he's going to find himself running into a brick wall yet again. That's brick wall being the number 76 of John Middleton, just not able to get past.
Now, I've noticed on a couple of close shots, it looks like there's just a touch of aero damage to the front right of Kelly's car as he pulls into the pits. You might be able to catch it right there. I'm not sure if that's actually affecting the overall top speed of Kelly's car. We all know, we've pointed out before, that the damage model for iRacing is not the most, while the visual damage model is not the most accurate. So I'm not sure if that's actually affecting him or not, but that could be a reason why he's not getting such a very big benefit of the draft on the straights here.
Muniz has lost the position to Ryan Huff in the pit stops there. He's this battle for 5th at the moment until pit stops shake out, and Muniz is all over the back of Huff, going to try to make a run into the bus stop. I don't think he's got the distance here, so let's, okay, backs off. He's quietly coaching him in my head there, but realizing this has happened long ago, not a lot I can do about it. That should be quite the interesting battle here, as Huff takes quite the tight inside line there, heading into the boot. Drop down the hill into the heel of the boot. Muniz all over the curb on the exit there. He can smell that. This is effectively for 3rd place right now, so he can smell that podium position just up ahead. So he's going to be pushing hard and trying to, if not make a pass, put Ryan Huff under some pressure to make a mistake. Yeah, tight inside line there. So one of the things with the Cadillacs, because they're a little heavier car and not a lot of downforce. I mean, there's a fair amount of downforce in the car, but not a lot. How you load the car into the corner and how you come off the corner, how you power out, can be very, very different. as I was mentioning before, with I think it was Todd Carver coming out of the bus stop into the outer loop. Basically, what he was probably doing there is where Dan Gralty was on the gas trying to aggressively turn into the outer loop. Todd Carver just kind of slow the car down, let it settle, let the car turn into the corner, and then get back on the gas, able to probably get a little bit better exit out, and in some cases roll through the corner a little bit better, even if Gralty's way was able to keep him ahead longer and maintain the gap, so that even if Todd did get the run out of the corner, he wouldn't be able to make a pass. So we'll see how Muniz here is able to take on Ryan Huff and kind of play with the line a little bit and see if he can do something a little bit different and take an advantage.
It was quite interesting trying to figure out the fastest way around this circuit for me, at least in the Cadillac. I found that I was losing or gaining the most time there. As Ryan Huff has a bit of oversteer going through the bus stop. Unfortunately, I'm not able to take advantage of that, but we're coming up to the boot section right now, and I found that there was a lot of time for me to gain or lose heading through the bus stop. See me taking that inside line there. It was if I remember correctly, I think I had a fairly different braking point than Ryan Huff did for that particular corner, so I'm just kind of sticking in the inside to make sure I don't lock up and run into the back of him. But there was a few different lines that I could try and take, and one of them I would be able to gain time, but I would kind of overheat the tires, and we know this car is so sensitive for the tire heat. Doesn't really wear out the tires, but if the tires heat up, then you're pretty much done for. And just learning this car and the fastest way to get it through the corners was a fun and challenging aspect of driving this particular car class.
Now Russell Cow in the pits. Timothy Stoll already made his pits, so John Middleton's actually the leader there, and I think that's Tim Stoll coming through the field just up ahead. I think didn't really get.
I think so too.
Going to make a little bit of sense. And there's Russell Cow coming out of the pits right now, so. And Muniz using all the tarmac and then some to get around turn one there. It's one of those corners where you go a little bit wide. I mean, you might want to try to pinch the car, but if you try to turn the car over top of that curb, it tends to unsettle the car a little bit. So if you know you're going a little bit wide, it's best to let the car run all the way wide. Use the asphalt they have on the outside there and get a good run coming off of it. You're going side by side with someone. It's not necessarily ideal because you eventually have to make it back onto the track and you risk collision. However, just to save your car from a spin, that's a very, very accepted use of track there. Doesn't look like he's able to do too much with them right now. We're going to have another car come through here. That's the blue car of Mike Kelly.
Mike Kelly, yep.
So Mike Kelly is 33.5 seconds behind John Middleton this lap, so remember that gap next time I check it, because that's going to be important, because when John's going to make his pit stop, that's the gap we're going to have to look at to see if Mike is gaining or losing time. Should have paid more attention to that when Mike made his pit stop initially. However, we'll just do the best we can with what we got right now.
Yeah, I think they were quite close when Kelly decided to make his final pit stop. So they entered pretty close. It'll be interesting to see where they come out.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Yeah, they're basically right on top of each other when Mike went into the pits. But 33.5 seconds was a gap, and I just noticed it there with Mike Kelly. So I'm just trying to watch that gap to see that when John makes his pit stop, whether Mike actually has the pace for gaining time or losing time on John Middleton. Also keep in mind too that because John doesn't have to pit for as long, he doesn't have to put on nearly as much fuel as Mike Kelly did, his pit stop will be shorter too, so you're going to have to factor that in as well. It's not like Formula One pit stops, where I'm pretty sure one of the pit stops I saw today, I may have blinked
yes.
and not noticed the car actually stop at his garage. It was unbelievably quick. I didn't get the actual gun time on it, but I mean, it might have been like 2.5 seconds, which is just ridiculous.
I think there were two pit stops that were that quick, so there was some just crazy how fast that they do those pit stops. Kind of wish that we could have the same here with the Cadillac. They kind of take a while to get refueled back up and to change the tires.
Yeah, I think literally in the F1 race, it was the time it took, not so much to change the tires, but to lift the car off the ground and then put it back down.
Yeah, pretty much.
All right, so we got Muniz here. He's this is still 5th and 6th position, so guys like Gary Miller, John Kelly, and have not yet made their pit stop, so we'll
Kelly
have to watch
actually
for them.
just pulling into the pits now, so both
There
of
we
these
go.
cars will jump one more spot. Gary Miller still has yet to make his final pit stop.
So remember I said the gap between John Middleton and Mike Kelly was about 33.5 seconds. It's actually down to 28.5 seconds right now. So Mike Kelly is making time leaps hand over fist right now over John Middleton. So if I was John Middleton and I knew this information, I'd probably try to make the pit stop to cover him. However, I don't have that information, and neither does he right now. So
yeah, it's gonna be close. I think. Yeah, even now, Mike Kelly's taken another second off of the gap between himself and Middleton. So that's going to be interesting. It's all going to come down to, I think, how much fuel John Middleton has to take to be able to finish the race.
which is not insignificant. I think it probably takes at least 2 or 3 seconds per gallon. So, I mean, if John Middleton's putting in, 5 less gallons, that's... I mean, Mike Kelly might have to make up some more time than that. That being said,
yeah.
I think now it's down to about 26 seconds that I think he's making up what he needs to. He's not leaving anything on the table, that's for sure.
Yeah, and this is a pretty lengthy pit lane too. And while the pit lane speed is higher than circuits that we visit in Europe, you're still on your pit speed limiter for quite a long time. So even if you don't have to take on so much fuel, you still, there's a set amount of time that you have to give up to actually make a pit stop.
Oh, Brian was a little wide there, going through turn 8. I'm going to turn 9 out of the boot, back onto the regular circuit here, and not a lot he can do there. But that's the thing, is Ryan Huff running a little bit wide, missing apex, is not really allowing Muniz to get a lot of time make up by doing that. He's going to have to do more than miss an apex. He's going to have to get on a curb, get a little loose coming off the corner for Muniz to get a real run at him to make a pass. But I do like watching these cars come down the front straight out here, because I've seen a lot of races here, be it Grand Am or the various NASCAR events that they have at this track, and really having a hard time distinguishing what I see in real life versus what I'm seeing on the screen here. It's really fantastic what iRacing's been able to do with the cars and the track scans and the whole bit. Unlike what I've seen from so far with a potentially rival product, Sim Raceway, is it looks like they have hover cars driving around the track that bear no resemblance at all to what they would look like in real life. So I'd say iRacing still has a very, very high upper hand on that, as Mike Kelly goes around Timothy Stahl.
Yeah, his
teammate. Did Tim have another late race crash again and damage his car? He does that quite often.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what happened. I mean, the gap is fairly consistent right now. It's about 0.7 of a second, not really dropping hand over fist, so that's interesting.
Well, unless Team Orders came into play. Oh, Muniz gets into the side of Ryan Huff, and oh, that is unfortunate. Muniz kind of slowing down the inside there, letting Ryan go around. Hopefully those cars aren't damaged, but Anthony, are those cars damaged?
No, they're not.
Okay, good. So we're back racing again. So
yep.
Unfortunate contact there, but Muniz not wanting to make the pass that way and continuing on.
Yep, it looked a lot more severe than it actually was. It was actually in sim, I remember it being fairly light contact, so there's no damage, at least noticeable damage.
That looks like Greg Schaefer is trying to take advantage of that. He's joined onto the back of them, and he's only about a second behind, so Muniz is want to get around sooner rather than later, otherwise he's going to have to worry about the 59 on his tail. John Rizzutos in the pit lane. We can see kind of briefly on our left and right side. So look for that. We're going to look for that gap there, because that's the battle with Daniel Coroni that is very, very important. Coroni's already made his pit stop, so it's going to come down to the pit lane there. And if I recall from Sim Racing Dan's broadcast that it was quite the event, and whether we'll see it on here, I do not know. I think it's going to be pretty close.
Yeah, the gap was roughly about 40 seconds when Rossetto entered the pit, and depending on what he does for fuel and all of that, it'll be interesting to see where they come out.
Oh, Brazitos is out of the pit lane right now, so we'll check the gap in just a second here. Tim Stahl's dropped about 2.5 seconds back at his teammate Mike Kelly, so I don't know if he has any issues with the car or whatnot, or if he just let him by, but not really pushing the issue. He has quite the lead on 5th place John Rossetto, so. And Dan Crony there, no, he's about 8 seconds behind right now, so it looks like Rossetto has that position relatively handily right now.
Yep, not quite as close as we thought it might be, but you never know. It could turn into a battle later in the race. We'll have to see what happens.
Yeah, I think it was that first pit stop there that I'm recalling. Is that right, Dan?
You mean the really close one? Yeah, that was a closer one.
And just watching the gap between, in the Daytona prototype class, it's John Middleton still leading, hasn't made his pit stop yet. The gap between himself and Mike Kelly, which we've been kind of keeping an eye on to see, as Gary Miller really giving his engine a lot of revs, waiting to get out of his pit box. The gap between John Middleton and Mike Kelly down to 15 seconds, and Middleton has yet to make his pit stop, so that is almost certainly going to be a pass in the pit lane there for Mike Kelly. As we go on board with Russell Cow, he's going to be inheriting the lead here fairly shortly as soon as Middleton decides to make his pit stop.
Inheriting and or taking it.
Yeah, he looks like he's on a pretty strong run right now as Middleton decides to stay out for one more lap.
I wonder if Middleton's either damaged his car or if he didn't take tires in the last pit stop. Is another possibility where tires do last pretty long in these cars, but it might be to the point where he's worn them right out.
And I think we've had that come up before in previous races where a driver would choose not to take tires, but in an endurance race like this, more than likely you're going to be putting in enough fuel where you're going to be sitting in the pit lane long enough where you could change those tires and not have the tires cost you any more time because of the fuel. So I don't really see the logic between not taking tires in a situation like this.
And sorry, Dan, go.
John Kuzland, I know, did that at Mosport and one other track, and in both cases I was able to best him with the fresh tires at the end of the race.
Yeah, I almost did that. I almost bested Carlos Passos there at Sebring had I not spun 8 times. Even with those spins, I was still able to catch him almost every time, except for the last one, which I ended up in the wall. But it's definitely a strategy in this car where I think in the HPD, I'm not sure about how the HPD performs now, but I think the HPD tires are, it's possible to run probably a couple stints on them. However, really, if the fuel is going to take that long anyway, why not, you know?
Yeah, I can think of one situation where it did work out favorably. I believe it was 2 seasons ago when Brian and I were running on a team in the same class, both on Daytona prototypes, and I believe neither of us, we pitted very, it was at Motegi, we pitted very late, didn't take tires, and we both gained positions because of that, but that's really the only time that I can think of where not taking tires in the Daytona prototype actually worked out in a favorable manner.
No, I definitely took tires at Motegi.
Oh, did you? Okay, I didn't.
Yeah.
So
because I was able to run Dan Gralty down at the end of that race.
Okay, so never mind. So for me personally, then that is a situation that helped me out. But that's really the only time that I can think of that that situation has helped.
Actually, it's funny because I think Motegi is one of the tracks where I probably had a better result had I pitted earlier because I was wearing the hell out of the tires. All right, now we've got a battle here. That's Greg Schaefer right underneath Muniz. They're going side by side through the corner there into the boot. Ryan Huff just ahead of them. This is going to be close, folks. Schaefer, this is a podium right here. This is 3rd, 4th, and 5th. Oh, and it's so close. It's going to be side by side. Muniz pinching him down on the inside there, not giving a lot of room and holding on to the place. And we got John Rosettos there in the white and blue car coming up behind there. And there's Jerry Morsdorf actually in there somehow, I think. He might be, no, he's a lap down, okay. He's behind Crony on the standings, but he is a lap down, so that's how they're together on the track. All right, and Greg Schaefer has lost touch with Muniz there, especially having to let John Rossetto spy.
Yeah, Schaefer definitely had pace in this race, and I think we were pretty close. At that point where it was the three of us very, very close together, I remember thinking to myself that we're getting held up, but we weren't fast enough to actually be able to find an easy way through, and that's really, at this point I'm thinking, you know, it's probably, I need to get going, otherwise Schaefer is really going to get by me, as he almost did.
Speaking need to get going right here. We've got Jerry Morsdorf coming up behind, but Muniz has a huge run on Ryan Huff. I think Ryan Huff's tires are done right now. He's not able to hold the line. There goes Jerry Morsdorf. There goes Anthony Muniz to the inside. He might have it. No, he should probably back out of that one. Yep, nope, that was going to happen. I will scold my colleague later for probably an ill-advised pass, but it looks like they got out of that one undamaged and continue to fight another day. But I think that puts Schaefer up into third position right now. That's what I mentioned before about the beginning of the track there. You really need to be fully alongside going to that bus stop, otherwise there's the 2-into-1 does just not work, and there's just not a lot of room for either of those cars there. They both went off track, but it looks like they're both continuing on here as Muniz is going for the position here at Gain on the inside. It looks like he might have the position clean right now, but it looks like Ryan Huff is going to have a little bit of a run here. And okay, well, that's that, I guess.
Yeah, just a little more explanation on that. I went to go and cover the inside there. Didn't quite see that he was as close as he was. I ended up making contact there, unfortunately.
Well, that's fourth position, I guess. Greg Schaefer's up in third position right now. Todd Carver in second, about 30 seconds behind James Cullen, who's just kind of boringly driving away. Not Wyatt Foster boring, but still a sizable lead there. All right, now we got Gary Miller here. He's in fifth position right now, right behind Anthony Muniz, I believe. Yep, looks like this could be for fourth position right now, as Miller has probably got a bit of a run coming through the S's right here. Bet you that looks like Muniz's car probably not in the best of shape right now, having had a few contacts at the front of that car. Seems to be going okay in a straight line, but Alright, so just with about 18 minutes left, I think all the pit stops are done now. I'm just going to go through the orders here. We got Russell Cow in the lead of the Daytona Prototype. Now with Mike Kelly very well entrenched in second position, he was able to get ahead of John Middleton in the pit stops. Mike Kelly's about 13 seconds behind Russell Cow and about 28 seconds ahead of John Middleton. So John Middleton there at the terrible end of that stint there. I'm not sure if there's damage or whatnot, but he lost a lot of time. John Rossettos is in fourth position, Daniel Caroni in fifth, with Timothy Stoll unfortunately down to sixth position. And Greg Schaefer's off the track. He's crabbing badly. What happened there? That's third position, right back to Anthony Muniz. I can't believe that car is driving at all. He is going very, very much crab-like down the track. That's unfortunate for Schaefer. He had recovered very nicely from an earlier incident, but it looks like he's finished himself off right there. So going through the order now is James Cullen in first, Todd Carver second, Muniz up to third, Miller up to fourth, and Schaefer is in fifth position, but it looks like Ryan Huff will take him. And he does right there, fifth position for Ryan Huff. But third place is not settled as Gary Miller is all over the back of Muniz right now, and it looks like his car is in better shape, at least through these S's. So the beginning of the race started out strong. The end of the race is coming on even stronger right now as we're coming down to it for a podium position for the Cadillacs right now. The rest of the positions there, think fourth place might be in question between John Rositos and Dan Caroni. It's about 2 seconds, 2.5 seconds of gap right now for fourth in the Daytona prototypes. But this is the battle right here for third in the Cadillacs.
Yeah, and remember the the gap between Rositos and Caroni was about 8 seconds after the pit stops were made, and so Dan Caroni is able to close that gap down by about 6 seconds in these last probably 8 minutes or so. So Caroni seems to have some pretty good pace, so that could come down to a very close battle there at the end.
We got some of the Daytona prototypes there kind of getting in the way right now. That's Brent Briles in a not very well handling car. He's in 8th position, 9 laps down. But as these long endurance races there, if you can get to the end, you can score some good points.
Yeah, he's managed to climb up quite a few positions. He is, well, I guess second best of the guys that have had some sort of incident. Timothy Stoll currently in the pits, and he is 3 laps down, so I'm assuming he is having some sort of damage repaired. So, like Brian pointed out earlier, it looks like he had some sort of incident there in the final stages of the race, unfortunately, and that's going to drop him quite a few positions. And after he had such a strong race, so that's unfortunate for him.
Yeah, a couple of seasons ago, Timothy Stoll was the the Corvette champion in one of our seasons, and it was because the first, I don't know how many races, he finished every race, and he was always up front. And then, unfortunately, I'm not sure what's happened, but he's had his a string of DNFs and crashes out of top positions, and had he just held on to a few of those there, he'd find himself way farther up the championship than he has been. I mean, he's always a threat, but at the same time, he's always a threat to the Armco, and unfortunately, it seems like that's happened again here.
Gap now between John Rositos and Daniel Caroni under 2 seconds, and seems to be coming down a few more tenths every lap, and with about 14 minutes left in the race, there's still plenty of time for Caroni to catch up and then try and execute a pass for 4th place.
Yeah, and good for us too is now Dan Caroni doing the catching right now.
Yeah,
so if he gets that gap close enough, we'll actually be able to see that battle. Because the software always looks for the second car in line in the battles here, as it is doing with Kerry Miller right now. Oh, 13 minutes, 45 seconds left. It feels like we've been here for years right now. This race has, I won't say it's dragged, because that's definitely not the case. It has been action pretty much the whole way. There's a little slower part in the middle of the race, but it's being bookended by some pretty intense battles.
And the gap continues to go down between Rositos and Caroni, down to under 1.5 seconds, 1.3 right now. So it's quite intense as we see John Middleton go by, who's currently running in 3rd place after his pit stop. Mike Kelly obviously able to get by because I guess Middleton's lack of pace, as the longer that he stayed out, there's 21 and then about 21.5 seconds between Middleton and Kelly.
I actually think Middleton's bringing the gap down now that he's coming out of his pit stop. I'm not sure what happened there in that middle stint. Again, I didn't get a chance to talk to him about it after the race just to see what was going on, but seemed to unfortunately catch a bad spot there in the middle, much like Mike caught a bad spot after his first pit stop. So Gary Miller not able to do a lot about Muniz right now. He's holding on to him, but that's pretty much it at the moment. Looks like that's actually the leader, James Cullen, coming up behind these two guys here. So he's not going to push them too hard, going to let them have their own battle. He's nearly 30 seconds ahead of Todd Carver right now, so that position's not in danger unless he does something stupid like stick his nose in there somewhere, and all these guys are paying attention to themselves, so he'll probably just back off a little bit or wait till a very clear opportunity to get by, but I think he might just enjoy the view from back there and watch a good battle.
And the gap between Rositos and Caroni continues to fall. It's now about 1 second between those two cars. Even had a couple moments where Caroni was able to get it down to about 8 tenths. So that should be a battle pretty soon. I'm actually kind of surprised we aren't seeing that right now. Well, I guess this battle's a little bit closer.
It is, and I think that might be the situation that we talked about before. I think John Rossetto may not have taken tires in that last pit stop. He had pulled out a pretty high gap, about, and possibly because of it, around 8 seconds. But now Coroni is really into that. He's got it under a second right now, and we've got 11 minutes left, so plenty of time to make that stick. 0.6 of a second right now. Yep, there's James Collins finally decided he's had enough of watching. He's going to go through. That's kind of separated Muniz and Miller there. So when he goes past Muniz, he'll probably lose about equal amount of time. And hey, here we go. Dan Coroni, 64, the white, blue, and red. What should be a kayak-sponsored car, unfortunately, is not. Coming up against John Rossettos, who that's the color of car he runs anyway. He doesn't have paint, I don't think, for that car. So this is a battle for 4th position.
And it'll be interesting to see now that Coroni's been able to catch up. He's closed the gap to about half a second. Let's see if he has the speed to be able to get around, or if Rossettos is fast enough to be able to hold on and defend.
Yeah, notice you can actually see, because this is the Dan's replay, you can actually see the gears he's using through the corners there. So if we happen to go back on board with them, which maybe we'll do, maybe we don't. It looks like we're back to the very, very close battle as Cullen is going down the inside of Muniz there. He should be able to lap himself, and if Muniz just lets him roll through there, should be able to get a good run and maybe a draft off him as they go through the corner here. Has allowed Miller to get right back up to Muniz there, so status quo returned. Yeah, these cars are really leaning through the S-bends there, the tail just kicking out ever so slightly. Muniz using all the track there, Miller not so much, having looks like his tires are holding on just a little bit better at the moment.
Then back to the battle between Rossettos and Coroni. It's still really close. 0.3 of a second now separating them. You can see the overall race leader, Russell Kyle, just behind them. Obviously, he's got a fairly sizable 22 seconds separating himself from Mike Kelly in second place, so he's not pushing too hard to get by these guys either.
You just caught a brief glimpse of the iRacing blimp there, just up above the track, providing us some excellent camera views from time to time. Let's watch their lines through here. Not pretty identical coming through the bus stop. Now you can see, look, well, you could. There's the gears right there. 3rd up to 4th, probably down to 2nd for this corner here. Yep, just letting the car roll through the apex. Probably a quick upshift to 3rd, right at the curb here. Yeah, there we go. You can see even the red lights and everything. This is actually a pretty good treat right now, because normally with the replay there, you're not able to see the dashboard. Just kind of, I think it sits at 0, and you don't get to see any of the speeds or gears or whatnot. So look for that again. But he's right on Rossettos' tail. Looks like Russell Cow is just kind of hanging back. He's not going to stick his nose in this right now. He might change his mind a little bit later if that gap starts coming down between him and Kelly, but for right now, he's just going to stick it back. And Rossettos ride, Coroni on the inside. Russell Cow maybe want to back off just a little bit there in case these two guys get together, because that'd be a pretty silly way to lose a lead if these two guys battled in front of you. As Timothy Stoll out of the pits right now, about a lap ahead of Brent Briles, so he still holds on to that 7th position.
Bit of GT traffic coming up here for these two guys battling. Looks like one's going to get right out of the way and let all the leading cars through. There's still one more. I'm not sure if either of these guys will be able to use it as a way to get by or separate them a little bit. Looks like they're going to get through the S's, so it's not even really going to play much of a factor for them.
Yeah, if I recall, that was Todd Carver, I believe, and he was very good heads-up driving. He noticed how close we were and just stepped aside for us.
Yeah, that's one of the tough things too. Is normally when you have when you're driving these slower class cars, you have an idea where everyone else is, and you know where the gaps are coming down. You know they're coming up to you, but exactly where they're going to catch you is kind of hard to predict sometimes, and it's not as easy as it looks to back off in the right spot, because you don't want to back off too soon, but at the same time you don't want to think, I was like, oh, okay, I've got another couple corners before they get to me, and next thing you know, they're right on top of you in the middle of the bus stop, which isn't good for anyone. So I want to point out the last time these two guys got the same piece of track, they had a little bit of contact at the bus stop, so hopefully that's not the case again this time.
It is really close. It looks like Coroni might be a little bit faster, but like we pointed out earlier in the broadcast, that it's quite hard to pass here, especially in the Daytona prototypes. They don't seem to have a big advantage, draft advantage, going down the straightaway, so it's tough to get alongside and then try and get a pass on another Daytona prototype.
Same thing with the Cadillacs, as we see here. It's Muniz that got Gary Miller right on his tail. I don't think he's got enough on him right now. Muniz taking the defensive inside line. Miller back at his draft, but yep, now Coroni's got to take a run at Rossettos again.
He's pretty close. He's within a tenth of a second. Let's see if he he's going to take a peek out to the right side, not alongside at all, to try and make a move there, but he seems faster. You just can't find, you seem to be faster in the right spot of the track to get by.
Yeah, we got a slower car coming up ahead there, so I think Dan's his best move is to try to get John Rossettos picked out of one of the corners there and make a run on him. He's going to have to time this just right. You don't want to be too close going through one corner and then lose momentum going to another. You got to really kind of pick your gap there, make a run at just the right time, and make sure that the moment that John has to lift off for the slower car is when you're still full on the gas and make a run. Only problem is if you get that wrong, you make a run right into the back of the car ahead of you, so it's definitely not an easy thing to do, and there's risks involved, but we're battling for 4th position right now, so we'll see how that plays out. Back to the Cadillac battle here. A little hard behind the damaged car of Brent Briles, not necessarily the best top speed right now, so maybe Mina is able to use a little bit of a draft. So he's running way off the apex right now, and watch Miller be able to hold the right side. Well, it looks like Muniz is able to hold the right side there too, getting the grip back there, still defending the inside into the bus stop. I guess it's the thing, if you're the lead car going in the inside of the bus stop, there's not a lot of chance of the other driver sticking his nose in there on you and ended up spinning you out, but at the same time it's definitely not the ideal line, and Miller's able to take advantage of that and keep the gap very, very close. So that's the thing, he's Miller's at that position right now where he's not able to get a good run on Muniz going through these corners. He's really going to have to exit the corner much faster to be able to get a run, because a draft is just not, in these cars, it's really just not there. Like, I mean, there is, you'll get some, Rossettos off.
Spins.
Oh no, 3 minutes left, all on his own. That is unfortunate. He was having a very, very, very strong race up there at 4th position. Podium at the beckoning if any one of the guys up ahead had a problem, so Rossettos is he's well ahead of Jerry Morsdorf, and who's in 6th position right now, so I don't think it's going to hurt him all that much, even if he did damage his car, but very, very disappointed from his side.
Yeah, he has a full lap over Jerry Morsdorf down in 6th place, so there won't be any threat of him losing another position, but unfortunate that he couldn't hold on to that battle with only a few minutes left in the race. It was looking pretty promising for him that he might be able to hold it on. Coroni was quick, and he was able to close the gap, but he was having a hard time actually getting past. So we would try to be normally focusing on Rossettos right here, but we'll look around at Lauren Bateman, who is still out on circuit, just turning laps by himself.
He's moved his way up to 8th position based on attrition, which is, considering how he started there, it's a good amount of points. Although I'm pretty sure for 2 hours driving a damaged car, I would not have been happy about that. That's happened to me at the 2 hours of Spa before, where I've had very, very damaged top speed-wise Acura, and it was not at all fun driving around for those 2 hours. I still ended up with like a 5th or a 6th position, which is a decent haul of points, but very, very helpful in my championship, but at the same time, not very fun.
And actually, with some of this GT traffic, the gap between Daniel Coroni and John Rossetto's is about 1.3 seconds right now. So the GT traffic being quite helpful for Rossetto's to try and catch back up. But given the fact that Coroni was able to catch up so quickly, I don't really think that even if he gets back up to him, he'll be able to get around with only 1 minute left in the race.
Yeah, but you never know with this race here. We've got at least another lap left. It's based on the leader of the Digital Prototypes, is Russell Cow. So there he goes, white flag right now. So that's him on his last lap. So all these cars here, this is their final lap, which is important to Muniz and Miller, because this is going to be Miller's last real chance here to get a good run. As looks like Muniz a little off the apex there, but able to maintain his exit speed very nicely, and Miller not able to do anything about that. There'll be one main passing area for these cars here, and that's coming down from the heel of the boot down into the toe. And like I say, I don't think he's going to do it here, but he's got a very slow Daytona Prototype up ahead of him, so that Daytona Prototype is way out of the way. He's going to kind of give that up. Muniz using the curves very nicely there, a little more conservative than Miller, who's really giving it everything he has. Miller able to stick right on the apex there. Muniz a little bit of a late apex, still able to maintain his speed, but losing a little bit of time as he took the longer way around. Let's see how they go through here. We're going to enter that part where it looks like Miller's going to have his last chance here. Going to come down the hill. This is a key corner, folks. It's going to be Miller's going to need to get a really, really good run off here to have any chance, because this will be the last real passing opportunity for him. He's holding it tight, and he looks like he's got a pretty good run here. I don't think it's going to be enough, folks, but it's going to be close. Yep, we can see on the onboard there it's not enough to get alongside, but we still got a few more corners left, and Muniz is going to have to be inch perfect, because Miller will be pouncing on any opportunity. And there's Muniz missing another apex just by a little bit, but every little bit at this point very, very important. It's actually probably better not to get on the curb there, because that'd be more disastrous for him. It looks like he's keeping everything clean, and Russell Cow, you're a race winner of the Daytona Prototypes. Let's see if we can cut back to the battle here. There's Lauren Bateman, which we're looking for John Rossetto's, but and it goes top of the screen. It looks like Muniz is going to take it. James Cullen wins the Cadillacs, but Muniz, 3rd position. That's a big finish for him. Mike Kelly, 2nd in the Daytona Prototypes, coming across here as the rest of the finishers come around. Go ahead, Anthony.
I was just going to say, good recovery there by Mike Kelly, because he really got himself kind of down the field after his first pit stop. So he manages to finish in 2nd place. A nice race there for recovery, rather, by Mike Kelly.
Oh, and Gary Miller out of fuel. I did not see that, but it looks like, or maybe not. No, he finished. Never mind. I think he stopped pretty quickly there. I just saw the gaps on the bottom of the screen there. Ryan Huff ahead of him, but no, Ryan Huff came in behind Gary Miller there, so Gary Miller is still in 4th position. Sorry for the confusion. So the order here, we can see Russell Cow in 1st, Daytona Prototype, Mike Kelly 2nd, John Middleton 3rd, Dan Corney 4th, and John Rossetto's 5th. In the GT, James Cullen in 1st, Todd Carver in 2nd place, Anthony Muniz 3rd, Gary Miller 4th, and Ryan Huff in 5th position.
We still have one more car out there. Well, maybe, yeah, Lauren Bateman is still out on track. That's what we're, the last driver we're waiting to cross the line. We've seen him taking a few laps out there by himself.
Dan, standings.
Yeah, so we'll check out the standings. Mike Kelly leading Russell Cow by just 1 point. Timothy Stoll dropping back farther. He was 13 points behind, I believe. Now he's 22. And a good scrum there from 4th to 8th. 16 points with the spread between those places. And over here in Cadillacs, James Cullen takes the lead from Colin McLean, who did not attend this race. And then Todd Carver is also taking advantage of that and is just 3 points back there. And still that big 4th through 6th battle, and then 7th through 10th. Another good close battle.
Yep, there. Any final thoughts there, guys, on what was a very entertaining and long race?
I think this was probably one of our more entertaining endurance races. A lot of time we'll have some action at the start, and then once everyone gets spread out, that's pretty much it. The positions are decided, but we had some good action pretty much throughout this whole race, and we'll take a look at the final couple of races that we'll be running here.
Yep, yes, we got... Oh, sure, go ahead, Brian.
Sorry, I was just saying, we got next coming up Homestead Road Course, the Circuit Zolder, which is a new one for us there, and finally the season concluding at Laguna Seca. As you can see by the dates there, all those long in the past there, so some of those results will be known, but look forward to that. Championship battles coming down to the last race, so next 3 races should be very interesting.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, I really enjoyed this. This was, well, no, maybe my second favorite race of the season. So I had a really good time. And yeah, really good and exciting to watch, too. Plenty of action. There's a couple battles at the ending, keeping things nice and exciting all the way through to the end. Well, thank you guys. And would you like to sign off before I sign off?
Well, we will see you at the next race at Homestead, Miami, and thank you for joining us.
Yes, thank you. Great race. Looking forward to the rest of the championship.
All right, well, on behalf of ISRA League, thank you to the racers and the admins who make these races possible. Thanks always to Brian Carey and Anthony Muniz, my co-commentators here, and to our sponsors, Z1 Simwheel. We will see you again next time. Have a good night.